Welcome back to Ground Up with Natalee, where your curious mind will go on a journey to learn something new. I guarantee you'll leave this episode motivated to take action on something that inspires you, big or small. So enjoy the listen and stay for a while. Follow us. All right, guys, today we have my cousin and my dear friend, Jordan Agajanian, on, and holy cow, we just finished the episode, and she is so inspiring. Like, honestly, she is my cousin, so I've known her since I was 0 years old, but I never knew how inspiring she was because I got to pick her brain about how she got to where she is today in motorsports marketing, how she grew her Instagram from 1,000 followers to 100,000 in less than 3 months. And she does not gatekeep. So she talks us through everything, how she's done it, how to get into motorsports and racing if you're interested. She literally walks you through all of it. But honestly, any career that you are aspiring to be in, she breaks down ways to, like, hacks and how to email people. And she just inspires a lot. So stay tuned for this episode and get out your notepad to take notes. All right, let's get right into it.
This is you. You know?
I know, I'm so happy you're here.
Me too.
Oh, wait, I totally forgot that I'm going to be introducing you as my cousin.
Whatever you want. If you want to.
Okay. Sometimes I forget because we're like such good friends.
I know. It's different.
That I'm like, oh my God, we grew up together. Okay, Jordan. Hi, welcome to Ground Up.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you.
I've been watching you do this since you started it. And like when you asked me to come on, I was like, oh my God.
You're like, finally, this bitch.
I know. I'm stoked. I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, so we start every episode with the Ground Up 3. So we want to know, Jordan, where are you from?
Los Angeles, California. So
nice.
Right here. Right at home.
Born and raised. Where were you born exactly?
I was born at Huntington Hospital in Pasadena.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was born in Whittier.
Were you actually?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So close. And you're 95?
Yeah, you're 94?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 1 year older than me. That's right.
I've always been your older cousin, huh?
Yeah, you have been. Yeah. Even though I remember when we were in Big Bear and you were playing that game and I thought you were so cool because you had like that game you plug into the TV and I was like, damn.
What was it? Like
some diva shopping thing, like, and then it froze and you were really upset.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really
me
fun.
at like 7 years old upset, not it.
Yeah.
Poor Jordan's still traumatized. Okay. I want to know, what was your first dream job?
So my first dream job, so I always loved making movies and like camera work. My brothers and I actually found this old video from when we were, God, I must have been like 8, and Jake, my older brother, was 10, and we made some video based on a video game we used to play, and like we hold up in front of the screen, like we didn't know how to, like, obviously we're like 8 and 10, we didn't know how to like edit stuff on the computer and do title screens, so we held up a piece of paper in front of the camera that's an Agajanian Productions, and I saw that the other day, and I was like, it was just so indicative of like, I was kind of like manifesting almost like my future before I knew it was going to be. And then so growing up, we always were making movies. And so my dream job was always like to be a film director. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to NYU. I was like, I'm going to go to NYU. I'm going to study film. And then I got into NYU and then I didn't want to go. So I didn't go. And then I think I always still loved like film and like content creation before I even knew what it was. You know what I mean? I just always loved like being with the camera and like capturing stuff. But yeah, I would say like my first dream job was like film director, and I like fully thought I was gonna go there. I do it. I was like, I put everything into it.
I feel like you're a 2024 version of a film director though, right now.
Kind of,
you know what I mean?
And like in like the social media space, yeah, for sure. I mean, last weekend I a couple weekends ago, I was in Charlotte with a NASCAR driver I work with, and got to like creatively direct a photo shoot we did. So yeah, I guess like in like the sense of, for all intents and purposes in 2024, like, yeah, I guess it is like a film director kind of role. Yeah.
Manifested it. That's so cool. I didn't even know you wanted to be a film director. I guess we did kind of talk about it recently because I remember Jake, who's my cousin Jordan's brother, wanted to be an actor.
Yes.
And he pursued it. And so, and you guys are in LA.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any family members in the entertainment industry.
No, we didn't. And I think Jake and I grew up doing theater, and we were always either like behind a camera or on stage or like doing something like creative. And Jake was always kind of the person who was in front of the camera, and I was more the person who was like behind it.
Yeah.
So it was
directing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, so what ended up being your first job?
So when I graduated, so like post college.
I usually like first paid job.
Paid job. I was working at a surf shop in Santa Barbara one summer.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't have a car. I had to ride a bike everywhere. I was staying at, my grandma has this like little tiny beach condo. And so I was staying there and living there. I was like, I guess I was 19. And yeah, I was just like working at a surf shop, folding t-shirts and doing that like all summer.
So wait, you went to college?
Yes. I went to TCU and Texas Christian University in like Dallas area. And I studied marketing. They had a really good business program. And so I figured that was broad enough where I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do yet. But I knew it was a great business school, and I knew it was general enough where like I could, it wasn't like engineering where it was like, if I studied engineering, like good luck doing anything else, you know? So it was broad enough where I could tell that I had different avenues. And then my senior year at college, I had a internship with the athletic department doing like sports marketing stuff. And it was a lot of like, it wasn't anything really exciting. I mean, for me it was because I was like 21 years old getting to work like basketball games and football games at like a D1 school. So it was really cool to me. And I think that that's initially what like piqued my interest in like marketing and sports and like fusing the two. I never really knew that you could do both at once. So that kind of introduced me to that.
So the seed was planted like, because you're 28 now. So the seed was planted early on.
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, the marketing like sports seed was planted. I kind of started to hone in on that was what I wanted to do my senior year of college. But even prior to that, like all of the racing stuff the space that I find myself in now, like I grew up with racing. My family was just always watching it. Like it was something that we were always talking about. Brothers were riding go-karts. We were watching the Indy 500. And so I always grew up with it. As I got older, I became way more interested in the sport. And I like saw people working in it. And I was like, I wonder if there's a way I can like do that and marketing. Like, does that even exist? Like, I was like, I didn't know. Like at the time, like it wasn't like social media was around, but it wasn't what it is now. Like it was like, you would just post like a picture from the weekend or like whatever. It wasn't like you were like, there was no reels. There was no like a day in my life. Like the only way I like knew about like kind of like motorsports marketing was because I would go to the racetrack and like see people like doing it. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. But yeah, there was no like career path for it. It was definitely kind of like a thing that I just started to like think about on my own.
Yeah. So I want to hear about the gap between you thinking about, I wonder about marketing and sports and where you are now. So first, can you describe your job now? Like you talked about the space you find yourself in now. Like what is that?
So currently, I find myself in the motorsports space. So I work in both Indycar and Nascar, and I'm actually working with a client right now who does Formula Drift, which is a whole new world that I'm learning about, which is so cool. So it's like Tokyo drift cars, but like in real life, like they're drifting. I'm still learning about it, so I don't know that much. I can't really talk about it. But I work as a social content brand manager for race car drivers. So helping them get their personal brand out there, which sometimes they don't understand like how important it is. And we can get into it, but like with racing, like a huge piece of that is sponsorship. And it's not like any other sport where you can just show up with a baseball bat and a glove and start playing. It's like you need to show up with like $500K. You know what I mean? And like you need to have been doing this since you were a kid. And
$500K dollars or followers?
$500,000.
Okay.
At minimum, just to like fund your season.
Wow. Yeah, you can't league or like practice in your backyard.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. So and so a big piece of that is getting sponsors, and that's why social media is such an important piece of, in my opinion, race car drivers' careers. And a lot of them just don't, either they're so focused on driving, they don't have time, or they don't know how, or like it's just something that's not intuitive to them. So I kind of found a need for that in the space. As I kept going to races, I just saw people needing that and was like, oh, why not me? Like, I can do that. Like, I know social media, I know racing. I can put both of those together and like deliver a value to these people that some of them don't even know that they need until they get it. They're like, oh, this is what I needed. So
What are some tips you can give to someone who doesn't have money to pay a social media manager right now that's in the racing industry and they're just starting out? How can they start to build their followers to try to get sponsorship or at least get some momentum going?
I would say if you can't afford to pay somebody, that's okay. Like I've grown my social media without paying anybody to do anything. So I take that back. I've paid a couple photographers here and there to get a few clips, but in terms of like page management, like I've done that all on my own and posting. And all the videos I've had that have like blown up, I guess you could say, have all been just content I filmed on my iPhone. So it's doable. You can do it by yourself. I'm actually like working with a driver right now who doesn't have budget to pay with somebody. So I'm helping him out and like just giving him some tips, and like we FaceTime every now and then, and I send him ideas for reels, and it's something that you can definitely teach yourself. Like as long as you're open-minded, and like what I did when I taught myself kind of like social media marketing was I just spent a lot of time on Instagram just scrolling. Like I was like, if I just spend time on here and like see what's doing well, and then if I see a reel that's doing well, like I'll break it down like, okay, why is that doing well? And then I'll just continue to like teach myself and like absorb as much content as possible, not for the sake of like absorbing meaningless content, but like what can I learn from this? So I would say like my number one tip to somebody who wants to start building their following and like wanting to put their name out there for sponsors and is like looking for funding for racing is you can just start on your own. Like don't let that become a barrier, like because that can be a super easy excuse to be like, well, I don't have money to pay somebody, so like I'm just, like I didn't have money to pay somebody. I built my own social media and I have way less cool stuff to post about. Like you're a race car driver, your life is freaking cool. Like there's so much that you can post. And like working with one guy who's a full-time student who is also a race car driver, I'm like, that's your story. Like most kids on the weekends, like go and party, or they go to the lake, or they go on the boat, or they do whatever. Most college students, like, I'm like, you go to the racetrack, like tell that story. So I feel like everybody has a story, and it's just about like, you just need to figure out kind of like what font you want to tell your story in. And like, I would say that figuring out your story and just teaching yourself, it's like totally doable. Like don't use that as an excuse. You know what I mean?
And I feel like there's probably a lot of fear behind people figuring out their story.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely the fear I see is people are like, well, what if I post too? And it's something that I had to get over too. Like people are like, what if I post too much? What if my followers think I'm weird? Like, I have some friends that follow me. It's like, if I let that hold me back, I would have never posted like the reel that I posted that like set my like growth in motion. Yeah. And I remember when I posted the reel, like originally my first one that got like 1 million views, I like posted it and it gained me like 10,000 followers, and people started to become really interested in what I was posting about. And I remember I originally posted it and I was with my friend at the time, and I was like, I'm embarrassed. Like, I'm going to delete it. Like, I don't want this up anymore. Like, my friends follow me. Like, I don't want them to see this. And she was like, oh my God, and I was like, it's performing badly. It had been like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, it's tanking. Like, I want to get it off the internet. And she was like, no, my God, just keep it. Like, stop. Like, who cares?
And that was the one that did
And that was the one that like I gained like 10,000 or like 12,000 followers from. That at the time was my biggest one.
Yeah.
Like it would like absolutely like grew me from like, took me from 0 to 1,000.
Yeah. By the way, for people listening to this, Jordan had 1,800
at the beginning
12?
of this year. Yeah. My goal.
It was like 2 months ago. It wasn't even January.
Yeah.
I
No.
feel like.
Well, no. Yeah. It was. Yeah. It was. Yeah. I would say I had about. I started growing in March.
Okay.
But before that, I had like less than 2,000.
Yeah. So Jordan had less than 2,000 followers. She's now almost at 100,000. And your last reel got 16 million views.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that was hate, but yeah.
But that's okay. So let's talk about that for a second. Okay. So when you were about to post that, did you think it was going to get as much hate as it did?
No. I was so confused. Like, I remember I made it. So it started off, if you haven't seen the reel, it's literally like 6 seconds. You can go to my page and watch it. But it started from a conversation I had with my NASCAR driver. Like, he's a very close family friend. He's also somebody I work with. He's 19 years old. And I was at the racetrack and I was creative directing. So I was with the photographer and I like to do my hair and makeup and I wear a cute outfit, and which the internet disagreed with me that I was wearing a cute outfit.
Did it really?
Oh my
Fucking
God.
assholes.
It was crazy.
Stupid.
They were like, is the cute outfit in the room with us? I'm like, oh my God, okay. Sorry.
Simmer down.
Yeah, the comments are actually pretty comical. They're funny now, but at the time, I was like, I want to die. Like, I was like, I can't read one more of these. But it started because somebody came up to me. I was waiting for him outside his trailer, and somebody came up to me and they were like, "Oh, you must be like Jesse's girlfriend." And I just laughed because I was like, "No, like he's like my little brother. Like I've known him for so long.
Right.
I'm 10 years older than him. Like I was like, and I just was like, oh no, like I'm not his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I know his girlfriend, and she's awesome, and I love her, and she's beautiful, and it's like not me. Like, I'm like, that's so not me. And so he came out of his trailer, and I was like, dude, Jesse, like funniest thing, someone just thought I was your girlfriend. And he was like, oh my God, like you should have told him you're my boss. And like that, we always joke about that. Like he's like, you're my boss, like you're the boss, like you tell me what to do, like you direct the photo shoots, like that's like our joke. And so I was like, that's funny, like I'm gonna make a reel out of that. And so I just cut this clip that I use like on the back of my phone, you know, the like suction cup thing.
Yeah.
I had used that to film some just like B-roll. I put it up, and then I was like doing some stuff in the pits, and like, so I just cut that into like a couple different seconds, and like put it on the internet. And the first clip is like, oh, you must be the girlfriend. And then the second clip, like on the beat drop, I use like a trending sound. It was like, bro, I'm the boss. And like, I showed it to my brother, and I was like, this is just so cool. And he was like, that's great. Like, you have to post that. And I showed it to Sam, my boyfriend, and he was like, that's so cool. He's like, that's badass. Like, you have to post that. And I was like, okay, cool. So I posted it, and it got like 10,000 in like, I would say like an hour, which is really good for me. And I was like, damn, like, okay, like pop off.
Yeah.
and then it kept going. And I was like, and the hate didn't roll in yet. And I was like, wow, I think this might hit 100K. And I was like, oh my God, I think this might hit 200K. And I'm like, we are at 500, folks. Like, we are getting there. And then the first day was fine. There was like not really any hate. I posted it like probably 9 a.m. like I always do. And then I woke up the next morning, and like there were comments about the way I was like chewing my gum. And I was like, and it's funny because I had 3 pieces of juicy fruit in my mouth because I love juicy fruit gum. And one piece, I need more flavor. Like I always need more. Like if I find something I like, I always have to have like 1,000 of it. Mm-hmm. So I put 3 pieces in my mouth, and I'm chewing it, and they're tearing me apart for the way I'm chewing gum. They're like, cringe as fuck. Like this girl, like, oh, is the cute outfit in the room with us? Like, no one thought you were the girlfriend. Like, Mr. Bean's daughter, which I actually really like that one because I love Mr. Bean, so that was like a compliment. But people were like saying just like the meanest things. It took a minute for the hate, for me to like be able to process the hate, because there's like 7,000 comments.
Right.
And
I was going to ask about the hate. Yeah. Like, how does that feel? Does that make you want to stop posting? Does that demotivate you? Or
it did for a minute. Like I was like, oh man, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like this, because when I posted it, I did not think anything was wrong with it. I thought it was cool.
Nothing is wrong with it.
Right. I thought it was cool. I was like, people say this to me all the time. Like, I've been coming to the racetrack since I was 20 years old. Like,
also, what is the definition of a boss? Like, come on, especially in this day and age, like, we use boss like, you're the boss.
That's the guy who's like commenting like back and forth to himself like 300 times. Like, he's literally like breaking down the definition of boss. Like,
so he's kind of sticking up for you? Or
no, not at all. He's saying I'm not the boss, which is fine. Like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like people are like, and that's where I really see people are breaking it down, is they're like, well, what's she the boss of? She's not the boss of NASCAR. Like, she's not the boss of the team. She doesn't have a team shirt on. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, I'm just the boss, okay? Yeah. Like, I'm the boss of the photo shoot that's happening this weekend.
Exactly.
I was the creative director, okay? Like, that's what I mean.
I'm the boss of creating this post and posting
exactly,
it. Exactly,
yeah. Like, I'm the boss of, and people are like, the boss of what? Her phone? And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore.
People are creative. They get real creative.
They get creative.
I loved your comment on it, which got like 30,000 likes, which was just, you're just so kind, and you're just like, oh my God, guys, like, no, I'm the boss of, like, you know, I'm here with the client creating their content or whatever. It's just very real, and it feels authentic, and I think people can feel that, and that's why it got so much engagement on your one comment. Mm-hmm. But also there's so many like positive comments too.
For sure. And I can't overlook that. Like there are, and I've gotten a ton of messages from just like really kind people, guys and girls, being like, I loved your reel. I don't understand why so many people have been like rude to you about it. Like, I don't see anything wrong with it. Like, I find it very inspiring. And like that's the stuff that like truly like put me in a better mindset. And honestly, what really helped me was one of my clients, because she has like almost 2 million followers. And I asked her, I was like, dude, like, do you ever deal with hate? And she was just like so helpful. She's like, you just got to tune it out. Like, and she's like, who cares what people say? And she kind of just like walked me through it. And like, I was like, damn, like it was so helpful. Honestly,
Wow.
I felt so much better after that conversation with her.
I've had, random things happen like that before. I remember when the finale of my show of Tell Me Lies came out, and people were DMing me like,
oh my God,
are you sick in the head?
Oh my God, you're like, do you not understand? I'm not Lydia.
Lucy's boyfriend.
Oh my God, that's actually crazy.
Yeah. And I was like someone was like, do you need to get therapy? Like, are you okay?
No.
And I was just like, oh my God. All right, guys, let's take a quick break from the show to talk about our sponsor, Mastermind Media. I've been shooting with Mastermind for a few years now, and I can truly say that they have covered all of my needs within the digital space. They create logos for me, graphic designs for my journal magic. Obviously, they produce the podcast, and it looks amazing. So I love working with them, and they're offering all of my listeners 15% off. So just shoot them an email and tell them that I sent you, and you'll get the discount. All of their information can be found in the show notes below. All right, guys, back to the show.
God. That's the thing though, I have to remember is like people like on the internet, like they're not like, they don't have all the information. Like, I don't know, they're not paying as close to, like, cause to me, I'm like, obviously I'm the creative director, but I'm like, wait, how would they know that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, yours is a little different cause like, I feel like they should know you're not actually Lydia in real life, but like, so that one I actually don't quite understand.
Maybe like Mississippi, they don't know that.
Sure, I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely not, and I haven't had that many. I've had some viral ones on like TikTok and stuff.
No,
but
you have, yeah.
But it wasn't like, it was more like lifestyle random shit.
Okay, so
and
it was like no room for hate, really.
Yeah, there was some that like, but anyways.
Just dumb, yeah.
I want to, okay, so the success you have now, and I'm not even talking about like being viral on Instagram.
Right.
I just feel like you have genuinely found your passions in alignment with work and being able to do it as a job. But I know, because I know you're my cousin, I know that it hasn't been like that for the past, 6 years.
Yeah.
So, you graduate college, you're like, okay, now what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
You're 22, you worked at Free People,
Yeah.
like you're finding your way. So I kind of want to know about some of the lows if you can.
Yeah.
Just sharing.
For sure.
Yeah. Like how you got through it and persisted and like came out on the other side. And right now I feel like you're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. And I have to remind myself that like, and I feel like people see on social media like, oh my God, you're so lucky you work in racing. Like, this is so cool. Especially now with like all the Drive to Survive, like Formula One stuff on Netflix, like that series that came out. There's like this huge, have you watched it at all? It's like they basically did like a whole like 6-season series on Formula One. And it kind of created this whole new fan base for like just like Formula One, but also just like racing in general. And then now there's like a NASCAR series that came out. And so there's like been a lot of buzz around racing in the past couple of years. So people right now are like, that's so cool. Like, I want to work in that. How do you do that? I'm a big fan of like Drive to Survive. It's like the Netflix show.
Wow. Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, well, like, let me break it down. Like, it has not always been like this. My first job out of college, I graduated college and all I wanted to do was work in racing, was work at a racing team. And I wanted to do motorsports marketing. And I talk about this a lot on my social media, and I actually have a reel that I posted. I found on my old like rejection letters from like emails from companies, racing teams and racing companies that I had applied for. And I was like cold emailing, I was like LinkedIn messaging, like Instagram networking people weren't really networking through Instagram at the time, so I didn't use that at all, but it was like LinkedIn and email and like just any way that I could just try to connect with somebody in racing. And no luck. Like, so I finally was like, okay, well, I need to work. It's been a few months. Like, I just graduated college. So I started working at a scooter company, doing customer service, like answering phones.
I remember.
They didn't tell me what I was going to be doing. They told me I was going to be a operations specialist. So I was like, oh, sick. And then on my first day, they're like, so you will be on the rider support team. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, what does that mean? And they're like, so what happens is when our riders are unsatisfied, they will send an email. And I'm like, I know what this is about. Like, I was like, oh man, they're making me do customer service.
And guys, we're talking about like Lime and Bird, like scooter.
Like, yeah,
back
like the
end of
scooter. Yeah, like pay, scan it, and then you ride and then you drop it off, whatever. And I did that, and I was living on the east side and I was working on the west side. And I was making no money. and I had to take the 5 a.m. shift because it was the only way to beat traffic.
It's all coming back. I remember
dude, do you
all
remember
of
all
this
that?
because we were like trying to hang out.
Yeah, we were
and
spending
you
a
were
lot of time together.
You were like, I work from like 5 to 1 or 5 to 2. I can come over after. And I'm like, what kind of fucking shift is this?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. It was crazy. And it was like, I had like Tuesday and like Friday off.
Yeah.
Like it was like super bizarre, but I was like, I need a job. And so I did that and I did it really well. And I, it wasn't like the most glamorous job at all by any means, but it was a job. And I feel like every time I'm doing something, no matter like whatever it is, I'm 0 or 100.
Yeah.
Like I have to be 100 or else I'm 0. And so I gave it my all, but I saw that there was this, so I was on the like customer service team, like full headset, like everything.
Cubicle?
No, it was an open floor plan.
Okay.
So no cubicle, but it was crazy. Like influencers were a thing. This is like back in 2018. And so influencers were a thing, but it was more like YouTube. Like TikTok didn't exist yet. Instagram influencers were like around, but it was like you either had like 1, 2, 3 million followers, or there was like you used Instagram casually. Like there was no like micro, nano. Like it was like you were either millions of followers or like just like an average Joe with like 1,800, 2,000. Influencing was just becoming a thing. And I remember there was a 2-person team and they called themselves, I think they're like the brand partnerships team. I don't know. And they were gifting scooters to celebrities. And I saw that and I was like, hey, like I have a super good idea. Like what if we like, because I'm always trying to bring racing into everything I do, right? I'm not working in racing, but I'm like, there's got to be a way. Like my brain was always like in that mode. And so I was like, what if, because I know at the racetrack, if anybody's ever been to a race, like you'll see like the drivers are always beep bopping around from like point A to point B, the garage, the paddock to whatever on like little moped scooters. That's how they get around because usually things are so spread out. It's like pretty hard to get. It's like a kind of like a lot, right? Like they take golf carts, right?
Yeah.
Like usually from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Same thing, but they just take like mopeds. So I was like, what if we gave them like gifted them all like scooters? And so I kind of pitched that idea to the team and I started volunteering with the brand partnerships 2-person team. And I was like, hey, I really want to do what you guys are doing. Like how can I get involved? Like, I know I'm on customer service, but like, is there anything I can volunteer with? Can I help you guys with anything? And they were like, they gave me some small tasks here and there. That was like mostly spreadsheet stuff. But it still got my foot in the door of like, it taught me so much, even though it was like the smallest task. Like I remember one of the tasks was they gave me a list of like creators and like I had to like use this tool to input their username and figure out how much each of their posts was like worth. So like I would input like, for example, like Kylie Jenner's name, like her Instagram handle, and then be like, one post would cost you $200,000, like whatever. And so they had me, and I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right, but you're learning because you asked.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, this is a different space. Like,
exactly.
How at this job that I am now find myself in, how can I start doing what I want to do without
kind of make
like
something out of nothing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really.
And so,
and that was just asking.
Yeah.
And fear of being like rejected. But
exactly. I'm like, what's the worst they can say? No, we don't have anything for you to volunteer on. And maybe I feel stupid for 5 seconds. Like, okay, like I'll get over it. Like, it's no big deal. And so, I did that. And I pitched that idea to them. Like, why don't we, because, IndyCar is the world that I know. And I was like, why don't we gift some of these scooters to IndyCar drivers? And they didn't end up doing it right away, but I later saw that they did do it. And I don't know if that came from my idea or not, but they actually gifted one to one of my friends, who's a driver. And it was so funny. And I reached out to him and I was like, dude, like who gifted you that? And he like was like, oh, like so-and-so on the brand team. And I was like, that's so funny.
That
like,
was your
that
idea,
was like
for
my
sure.
idea.
Yeah.
I was like, that was literally came from me. So, that was my first job out of college. And from there, I went to Ticketmaster and was doing digital marketing. It was mostly like paid ads, so it wasn't anything super creative. And then COVID hit. And then obviously working in like at Ticketmaster and live events was like kind of tanked pretty quickly. I found myself, what's the word? They furloughed like all of us. So we weren't unemployed, but we weren't being paid. And I think that I did have a moment where I was like, maybe it just wasn't meant for me to work in racing, But I always knew I really wanted to. Like, I was like, I really still want to do that, And so then I left there, did a couple other things, and then got the job at the company that I currently work for, or I'm actually in the process of leaving, which is kind of exciting for me. Scary, but exciting.
Yeah.
And it's all on good terms. Like there's nothing wrong, but I'm leaving to pursue like what I love. And so I'm leaving there to do work in racing full time. And, but yeah, when I was working with there, I kind of they had just signed a race car driver. So I got my foot in the door, was again with the volunteering, like anything you guys need to help out with this partnership, like I will submit invoices, I will make PowerPoints.
Right.
Like I just
starting from the ground up,
for real, like it was very much like a ground up experience. And it started with raising my hand and like taking out the trash, so to speak. You know, I was just doing those little things that like nobody else really wanted to do. And like little by slowly, they were like, "Oh."
And this is for a company that is not. This is an energy drink company,
Correct,
so it's
yes.
not like
nothing to do.
You were just like,
right.
Hey, if you're
Yeah.
working with someone in this space, like I would love to be involved in that
Yeah.
side of things.
Yeah.
That's so specific. Like it's not
Yeah.
like everyone on the team is like, we want to do this, we want to do this.
Yeah.
So if there's something specific that you want to get into, ask.
Exactly. And that was where, and I remember I had the conversation with my boss. Like I told her, I was like, I love racing. Like this partnership is very interesting to me. Like I would love to be as involved and as close to it as possible and help out with whatever
As you'll
I
let
can.
me in the beginning. And then
Yes.
you show your colors, which
Yeah.
is extremely good work ethic and
Yes.
stuff to work
Yeah.
your way up.
Exactly. And so and it's a lot of hard work. Like I feel like people, again, it's so cool that you get to do that. And like, yes, it is very cool. And the race weekends are very fun and very busy and they're very exciting. But there is so much that has had to happen to get there. And that still happens during the week when I'm back in LA, like away from the excitement of the track. Like there is content I have to go through. There's content I have to edit. There's things I have to create. There are social plans I have to put together. Like there is so much happening. And then from the brand side, like there are cars that need to be designed. There are helmets that need to be designed. Like there are all these channels things need to go through. And people are like, wow, the car looks so sick. And I'm like, thanks. Like that was a whole process. Or the helmet looks great. Like, thanks. Like we had to get that approved by XYZ and then like had to find the color. And like, you know, there's so much that people like don't think about. And so, yeah, definitely you have to have that work ethic, whatever you're doing, whatever. Racing, whatever, like
Acting.
Yes.
People are always like, oh my God, that's so cool. You booked a show.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's
like,
very cool,
Literally
but-
1,000 auditions later. And
I think, and something that you actually said, I remember you posted it. God, it had to be like, I don't know, years ago. I don't know. But you posted something. I think somebody like asked you a question on like your Instagram, and it was something like, how'd you find success in acting or something? And your answer was like, you have to be okay with being told no 1,000 times, and you just have to keep trying. And I was like, that always stuck with me. Like really, it did. And I was like, that is what I have to do. I just have to, even if I'm told no 1,000 times, and I have to get over that fear of being told no, right? Like, so if somebody tells me no, so what? Okay, so I try again, or I try with the next person, or I like try a different way. Like, eventually something's gonna give, and like if it's meant for you, like you're gonna find it.
Yep.
So you said that, and it always stuck with me.
I'm such a fan of cheesy quotes, and this one is, and I don't know who said it, I forget, like Winston Churchill or something, but it was like,
Yeah.
the longer and harder you knock, someone's bound to open the door.
No, my mom always told me, she's like, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, Jordan. And I'm like, that rings in my head. And I'm like, Debbie,
It's helpful
damn
though,
it. Like,
because
no,
it's
it
so
is.
true.
Yeah.
If you picture the the knock analogy,
Yeah.
if you knock and you're pounding and it's getting louder, someone is literally, if someone is in that house,
Yeah.
they're bound to open the door.
Yeah.
They're like, what
Yeah.
do you want?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh my God.
come in.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Come in.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with any career. And I feel like although your niche is clearly racing,
Yeah.
you can apply almost any of like the
100%.
the posts that you post.
Yeah.
In regard to careers for anyone.
Yeah. A lot is what I talk about a lot in my posts, and like in like my biggest tip is people are always like, what's the number one tip that you have for getting into racing? And again, this applies, and I think that it can be adapted to any niche, any industry. Is like, I always say, like, figure out like hone in on your like zone. You know what I mean? Like people are like, I want to work in racing. And I'm like, okay, well, do you want to work in racing marketing? Do you want to be an engineer? If you want to work in marketing, do you want to work in PR? Do you want to work in events? Do you want to work in social media, content creation, creative direction, production? Like find, like get as specific as possible. And then, and the key word there is as possible, right? Like if you are still like, well, I want to do marketing, but I don't know specifically, that's okay too. Like, but just always be like, paying attention and trying to evolve and like develop that specific niche that you want. And then my second piece is like, because I always tell people, like, I think one of my biggest assets in getting to where I am is how knowledgeable I was about the industry I wanted to work in. And again, for me, it was racing, but for anybody, it can be anything. Like I always stayed so knowledgeable about IndyCar because that was like specifically, which again is so niche. Like some people who are listening probably don't even know what that is. And like, but for me, it was so specific. Like I just stayed so knowledgeable about this one specific field that finally, like when I was working at the company, the energy drink company, and they said, does anybody know anything about this? I was the only one who could raise my hand and say, yeah, I'm actually super knowledgeable about that and would love to help out in any capacity I can.
Wow.
And that was my window of opportunity that if I didn't have the knowledge, I think that I probably would have missed it. Because I just like, even though I think that I kind of, there were some moments where I was like, maybe I'm just not meant to work in racing. I never stopped learning about it. You know what I mean? I always stayed in the know. I always stayed learning about it. Like I always just kind of kept the line, like the dream in sight. And so I think that like the working knowledge of the industry plus like the overall like direction of where I like was dreaming, I guess I wanted to go in, those two combined, like that was just like the perfect cocktail. And again, it can be applied to any industry.
Yeah.
Like doesn't just have to be racing.
Another quote, preparation plus opportunity equals luck.
100%. Yeah.
Right? I think
Yeah.
that's it.
I think, I've
Like,
never heard that.
Really?
Yeah.
Preparation plus opportunity
Okay,
equals
yes.
luck.
Luck
Right.
in quotes. Got
Luck
it.
in quotes.
I love that. No,
Right.
it's so true. 'Cause-
Equals success, actually,
Yes.
might be like the
no,
real.
I love that. That's good. Because
Yeah.
somebody said to me, they were like, oh, like so much of working in racing is luck. I'm like, you can say that about any industry.
You can. Oh my
Right.
God. Even everything we're talking about right now, I'm like, if you're listening to this and you're an actor, like you can apply literally all of these things
Yeah.
to that, you know, of being
100%.
like, okay, you have to keep persisting and be knowledgeable about
Yes.
acting
Right.
or whatever it is that you want to do so that when the opportunity does come, you are there to take it. Because
Yeah.
the thing with acting too is when you're auditioning, they're looking for a very specific type every single time, right?
Right.
It's not going to be you 9 out of the 10 times.
Well, but also imagine if you showed up to acting, right? And like it's like showing up with, like if they give you a script, right? For like I don't know exactly how it works, but like they give you a script and say that you just show up and you just read the script. Like, because I remember we did that audition one time. I helped you with it. And do you remember?
So you're like, wait, the audition.
No, I forgot. Do you remember the one we did it in Texas?
Oh, yes.
Remember it was, I can't remember what it was for.
Yeah. It's called Roswell, New Mexico.
Roswell, that's right. And I remember like you were prepping for it like the entire time that you were with me in Texas.
Yeah.
And you were like out on the patio drinking your coffee and you were like not just reading, like showing up, like you didn't just show up to do the tape like with the script. You like developed the character, right? Like you had a working knowledge of like what this character was so that you were able to like then deliver the performance the way that like would be organic to that character.
Exactly. So
Right.
prepared,
Yes.
the opportunity, which is the audition,
Yes.
equals success.
Exactly.
And no matter what, in this case, it's a successful audition because you leave feeling good about it.
Exactly.
There's the other quote, success where you book it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to define too, is like there's so many ways to succeed. Like even if something like even if you don't book the show, like it's still a success if you left feeling like it was a good like a successful audition. Like that's like redefine success maybe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because then that can help you like there are other ways to succeed. Because if it's only either I book the show and I succeed or I don't book it and I lose and I'm the worst, like there can be that middle ground where it's like I cannot book the show and still succeed because there are things all the time where like I've worked on projects like that I've failed miserably and it's like, but to me it's still a success because like as long as I put in my best effort and I was prepared and I showed up and I did my job, to me that's still a success and I can learn from like whatever went wrong and not do it again.
Yeah.
So
and you
for
showed up
me-
for yourself and you feel good about yourself and you're
100%.
like, ooh, that feels good for
It's
me.
not a success when I show up unprepared, when I show up without the proper materials or proper knowledge, and I show up just completely not knowing what direction I'm going to go in. That to me is a failure. Even if, say, the stuff happens to turn out well, I still don't feel good about it. That's not successful to me. A successful project is like when I show up with all those things, and even if it doesn't turn out or whatever happens,
No
something
one
goes wrong.
responds.
Yeah, even if I'm reaching out to people and I craft a great message and I'm like, hey, so-and-so, or like an interview, right? Like say I've had job interviews before. Like I had a job interview when I was in college, I remember with my senior year for an internship with ESPN. And I thought it went great, and it did go well. And then something happened and it didn't work out. I think they had like a hiring freeze or whatever. And if I defined that in terms of like the traditional definition of success, that would have been traditionally unsuccessful because I didn't get the job. But for me, I think about that and like, I was so proud of like, I showed up, I was prepared. I know I killed that interview. And even whether they had a hiring freeze or not, like whether I got it or not, to me, that was still a success because I felt good about it. And then it was just better preparation for the next interview.
Such good advice.
So it's just always showing up. And like, for me, like sometimes redefining success, there can be much like smaller successes on the way to that one big one. You know what I mean?
Everything is a small success.
Like for somebody who's like, people DM me a lot and they're like, I'm so scared to reach out to people on Instagram or LinkedIn. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm nervous. What if people think about me? Like, for me, like you sending that one message, like that might be your first success. Just sending the message, you know, like take it in steps. Like for somebody who's really scared about what other people think about them and really nervous on sending that message and putting themselves out there, that your first success might be just hitting send.
Totally.
Crafting the message.
I love
you know
what you said.
I mean?
You
like,
said if you're nervous, if that's like so not you and you do it,
yes,
that's a success. If you're someone who's like, I don't care, I'm doing it,
100%.
then that might be a failure, which is great because you need 1,000 of of those.
Right, exactly.
To get out of, before you get your first success.
Right,
literally.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so another thing is that you, in real time right now, today on Ground Up with Natalee, you have done the crazy thing where you quit your day job.
Oh yeah, dude.
So I want to talk about it because I'm sure there are so many people out there who have a job, a 9 to 5, that they don't, maybe they like it or they don't like it or whatever. In your case, I know it was just kind of indifferent, like it was fine. And it definitely got you to where you are today and you learned so much from it. But you were ready to let go of the good to get the great, right?
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of courage. And you told me today, right when you pulled up to the
First
studio.
thing I told you, I rolled down my window. I was like, Nat, guess what? I quit.
And I'm scared.
And I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us about it. Like just a little bit of,
So for me, working at the company I was working at, I'm finishing out my time there. I loved it. I still love it. It was a very tough decision for me. I love the people I work with. I loved all the experiences I got to have there. It definitely was a stepping stone for me into what I'm doing now. It afforded me the opportunity to even, get into racing the way that I wanted to get into it. It gave me that window of, like I said, like that chance to enter the industry. And it was a very tough decision. And I came to a point where I was like, I can either have stability or ambition, and right now I need to pick one. And it came to the point where I was like, I can have stability later in my life. I can always go back and get another 9 to 5. I can always go back and get another job. I can always go back to LinkedIn. I can always go back to Indeed. I can always send in an application. But like this chance I have right now to like work full time in racing, which I still don't have like a full plan. I mean, I have a client that I'm working with that I'm so excited to like fully dedicate all my time to and like make just an amazing brand with. And my goal is to eventually have like more of those and like more projects possible.
But it's your goal. You didn't quit when you already had everything together.
No. But I knew that I was at that point where something had to give because I love my work. I love my job. I love the people that I worked with at the company. But I was at this point where I was not able to deliver the attention to other projects that they deserved. So other than racing, like I had other clients I was working with through the energy drink company. And I was so dedicated to the racing stuff and so excited about the racing stuff that I was like, I'm not able to like follow through with these other things because I'm so busy or I have another client and like that job needed to come first. Like they were my gainful employer. And so I wanted to be able to like, they deserved somebody who could do that. But my other client also deserved somebody who could be working for her full time and be really dedicated to her. So both deserved this like full-time commitment. And I tried to do both for a little bit. Yeah. And I did for a little bit. Yeah. And it got to the point where I was like, somebody's got to give, like I got to choose. And one was very stable and one is very ambitious. And I chose to go in the direction of ambition because if not now, like when? Like, honestly, I was on the phone with my dad, who obviously, you know, Uncle Timmy, who's like just like my biggest cheerleader, but he's my dad, right? So he's like, what do you mean you're leaving? Like, you have a stable paycheck and like health insurance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, Dad.
And
but
Uncle
like,
Timmy's so smart.
He's
It's hard
so
not
smart.
to listen to him.
I know. And I'm like, I know, but you, and I'm just told him, like, you have to trust me. And he's like, well, why don't you just wait a couple weeks? And I'm like, I say a couple weeks this week. I'll say a couple weeks in a couple weeks. I'll say a couple weeks in a couple weeks from then. Like, I have to do, like, if not now, like when?
Well,
Yeah.
behind fear is everything you've ever wanted.
Yes.
I love what you said about like, look, I can always go back to LinkedIn. I can always go back to Indeed.
Yeah.
Like that is such a great fact right there.
Yeah.
When people ask me if I'm scared about, you know, not booking or whatever, because as an actor, obviously it's like freaking waves.
For sure, yeah.
I'm like, I'm never gonna be on the street. Like my work ethic would never
Yeah,
allow
yeah,
me.
you're
Like,
just not that type of,
No,
yeah.
I will send a cold email. I will, you know, work for an interior design company. Like worst comes to worst, like something that I'm not that interested in, I will figure out a way to make money or have a 9-to-5 or whatever.
And that was what I told my dad. Was he was all worried, and I'm like, Dad, you know me, like, you know my work ethic. Like, I was like, you know, I'll figure it out. And then I said that, and he was like, oh, I know.
Aww,
you know,
yeah.
like, but like that's how we are. Like we can always figure it out. That's how like, and that's kind of just the mindset I feel like you have to have. It's scary though.
Failure is an interesting thing, and we all define it in different ways. You know what I mean? Something that some people I feel like don't know about you, which is that you're sober, and we're kind of coming up in November, right? On an anniversary.
Oh my God, yes.
November 5th?
4th. Yes.
Dang.
Yes. Yeah. No, you were right there.
How many years sober?
If I make it until November 4th, I'll have this time 4 years sober.
Oh my God! Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
How has that been for you?
I mean, I definitely would not be able to be in the position I'm in without being sober. Like, I could not. I have that to thank for everything, so I have to put that first. And anything that comes before my sobriety, is going to be the first thing I lose if I relapse. And so a little like background on it. So when I was 21, I got sober. I was going to my senior year of college and got sober. Moved out of that. I was living in a house with some sorority sisters. Moved into an apartment by myself. And it was great. And I stayed sober for 3 years, a little over 3 years. And then during COVID in 2020, I relapsed and I drank again I didn't last very long. I was about 2 months. And luckily, you know, some people who relapse never get sober again. I am very fortunate that I was able to come back and get on my feet again. And I had great people around me and was able to start over. And now coming up, well, it was very emotional, not emotional, but it was very, I had this year when I passed, because I had like 3 months and or 3 years and a few months the first time I was sober. And I feel like that sobriety didn't last because I don't know if I was 100% doing it for myself. I think that I was doing it for my family members. I think I was doing it because I wanted consequences to stop. But this time when I got sober, I was like, I see, like, there's this life that I want that's right at my fingertips that I want to achieve. And like, I cannot have like my drinking career and I can't have my actual career. They can't coexist because I'm not the type of person, like as I've mentioned earlier in this podcast, like I'm either 100% or I'm 0%. So I'm either like blackout drunk or I'm not drinking at all. Like, so for me it was, and it's so much more also not than just like not drinking, like not picking up the alcohol. Like to me, it's like the whole like way of life, right? Like I live in a way of life where like I'm of service to others. Like I put others before myself. Like, okay, how can I be as selfless as possible? Like I need to get out of myself. Anytime I'm having a problem or I'm in my head, like, and I'm not perfect at it, the quickest fix is going to do something for somebody else and getting out of myself. The minute I am able to not be selfish is when my problems start to really diminish and get a lot smaller because I start to see that like other people have stuff going on too. And like suddenly something that seemed so big for me is really, really small. Like I have a friend that tells me, she's like, when the roof is leaking, go mow the lawn. And it's like, well, why would you do that? It's like, because by the time I mow the lawn and come back, the roof's not leaking anymore. And like, I love that. And that's proven true for me. Like when my roof is leaking or I have some problems in my life, like I go and I mow the lawn. Like I help someone else. When I come back, like my problem's not there anymore.
Wow.
And so that to me is like, it's so much more than just not drinking. It's like this, and I work a 12-step program. And so that's where I get a lot of this. I pull a lot of this like inspiration from and like apply to every area of my life. Like I'm not just sober from drugs and alcohol. Like I live a sober lifestyle. And so, again, not always perfect at it. Like it's hard. But there is no way that I would be able to be drinking and be at the racetrack, like, and do a good job.
Right.
There's just no way. Cause when I'm drinking, it's like all bets are off. Like I'm not responsible.
It's literally top poison. So
100%. Yeah. I mean, I make a fool of myself. I make a fool of others around me. I'm selfish. I hurt others. Like it's not me. And it's, it took a while for me to like, for people to for me to reintroduce myself and people meet the new Jordan. Like it was like, it took a minute. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful to be sober now. Like if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have the life I have at all.
Your story is super inspiring, seriously. And because I know it's not easy to be sober, especially like, you know, networking events or whatever. I'm sure it took like now 4 years later, you're probably super comfortable with being like, oh no, I don't drink. But in the beginning it was probably like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I can't have a drink in my hand. And
I just was on the phone this morning I have a girl that I'm like sponsoring or like working with. And she called me and she's like, I'm moving in with these new roommates. She just graduated college. She's like, I'm moving in with these new roommates in a week. They don't know I don't drink. Like, what do I say? I don't know what to tell them. Like, I'll tell them I don't drink, but I don't know. When they ask me why, what do I say? And I'm like, tell them you don't like the way it makes you feel. Like, to me, that's so like intuitive now. But I remember being in her shoes and being like, oh my God, they're going to find out I don't drink. And like, they're not going to be my friend. They're going to want to move out. And like, no one's thinking about you that much. Like, it's not, it's like, I'm not that special. Nobody's that like thinking about me that much. And that's why I told her, I was like, their lives are going to go on whether you drink or not. Like no one really cares. And like
finding confidence in it too. Cause I'm sure when you're out and people are like, oh, come on. Like, even nights where like, cause I'm not sober, but I don't drink that often. And there's definitely nights where I'm like, no, I don't want one. Like, oh, come on, just have one, you know? And it's like, it sounds so old fashioned, like peer pressure, but it's a real thing.
It's real.
And you know, to just, it takes confidence to be like, no, I actually don't want anything. I'm
well,
good.
I just know, like, for me, there's no such thing as like one drink. Like, I'll have one drink and then like I wake up the next morning somewhere I don't even know where I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's like there's no in between.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, I just have to be very clear on that. And yeah, it does take confidence and it takes, you know, just being firm in your belief that like, I can't drink and like that's okay. It doesn't make me weird. Honestly, and this sounds so cheesy, but like being sober is my superpower. Like I love being sober.
I think it's healthy. Also,
yeah, it is really good for you.
It's really cool and good for you.
And I'm so much more productive. And like,
so much more.
I know.
Waking up. I mean, the amount of sleep is like the most important thing for human beings.
Yes, I struggle with that. I have insomnia, so it's it's really bad. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a whole other episode. We can talk about it. But alcohol, on the other hand, like makes your sleep terrible. And like you never get into deep REM.
You're not like actually sleeping.
You're not actually sleeping. People think, oh no, I passed out.
I know. It's like, that was something I learned the hard way.
It's like, no, you wake up feeling like shit because you didn't sleep and you're dehydrated.
Right, yeah. So it's like, drink some water. Yeah. Like what I've eaten.
So with wrapping up everything we just said, how could you do, you know, you wouldn't be able to, in my opinion, again, I'm not sober, but I live a very healthy lifestyle, and I don't think you can like accomplish all of these great things by like partying and drinking a bunch and waking up and not sleeping, and because it takes a toll on your overall health. I mean, there's so much science that backs it up.
Yeah, and just in every aspect. Like, I mean, even like on long race weekends, people go out and drink, like, you know, in between practice day and race day. Like, if I did that, there was no way I'd wake up for race day. Like, there's no way. Like, there's that piece. And then also, like, I'm very creative at night. Like, I've always been a night owl. And, like, a lot of the times, like, I do stuff during the day and then I work at night. And, like, if I was drinking, like, I quite literally just, like, don't even have time to drink. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I would just be, like, I would have to sacrifice my work or like my mental health or my physical health to make time for drinking. And like, I just have other things that are more important to me. And like, like I said, I have a very strong relationship with the higher power. Like, I believe that like a higher power is what keeps me sober. Like me on my own accord, like I've proven time and time again that Jordan can't stop herself from drinking and using drugs. And so for me, like I wasn't able to stop until I had that constant contact with a higher power. And because of that, I'm able to have the life I have today. But yeah, I mean, for me, there's no world where those two things can coexist, as success and drinking. For me personally, I see some people do it. I don't know how they do it, but it's great for them.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. But yeah.
Well, Jordan, you are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm serious. Like I've had so many people on and I truly learned so much from you today. And I think you're such a great inspiration for the younger generation too. Or our generation, anyone that just needs, like the whole point of this podcast is for people to listen and, you know, stop the pod and take a small action on their dreams, whether it's little or big. And I feel like you gave people so many nuggets that they can take and go directly from this, listen and go send an email or do something and
go for it.
Fail forward.
Just go for it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
I love you, Jordan. Thank you.
I love
for
you
coming
too.
on.
Thanks for having me. So exciting. Okay.
At Jordan Agajanian.
Yes.
Which I'll spell in the show
It's
notes.
a long one.
Yeah.
We'll spell it out for you. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Bye.
Peace. All right, guys, let's take a quick break from the show to talk about our sponsor, Mastermind Media. I've been shooting with Mastermind for a few years now, and I can truly say that they have covered all of my needs within the digital space. They create logos for me, graphic designs for my journal magic. Obviously, they produce the podcast, and it looks amazing. So I love working with them, and they're offering all of my listeners 15% off. So just shoot them an email and tell them that I sent you and you'll get the discount. All of their information can be found in the show notes below. All right, guys, back to the show.